Time. What is it? Have you ever really thought about the question? If you like most people, you live life believing there is such a thing as the past, whilst now you're busy thinking about the future. But what is it? A movement? A flow? A flow of what? If you really take the time to think about it, time seems to be a flow of memory. For example, you know where you were a couple of seconds ago because you have a memory of being somewhere at a time when the hand of the clock was different than it is now. But does that mean the past existed? The only thing you have to go on is being in a certain place at a certain time, which is different than now. And how do I know? Because at this moment, I retrieve it from my memory base. Okay, so what is this moment then? Well, that's another place and time. But wait, that moment just became memory too. What about now? Oops, gone again. Stored in memory. Sure, you may think there may be physical evidence of time by looking at the footsteps you just left behind, but that could be you making sense of your stored memory, making sense of data, tying together data to form flow. There's even a philosophical idea called last Thursdayism that takes what I just said to the extreme. The idea of last Thursdayism is that the universe was created last Thursday, and you can't prove otherwise. Ugh, that's really weird. Anyway, the more you start to think about this flow, the weirder it gets, because the way we experience it seems to change too. When you're young, time runs slow. When you're old, last year's birthday feels like it happened just yesterday. If you're having fun, your perception of time goes fast. If you're bored, it goes really slow. And if you're in danger, it seems to slow down even more. So, several years ago, I was in a car accident in Chicago. The car spun around several times. It seemed to last forever. Someone looking at this from the sideline would probably have said, 3 seconds. Yet, the view of each scene that flashed before my eyes was so detailed that my perception of time slowed down dramatically. Time running slow seems to be our mind's way to enable us to focus on threats so that we can better deal with them. It's this same heightened focus that means that fearful people focus more on today rather than on some uncertainty tomorrow. In economic experiments, sad people place more value on money today, while happy people place more value on payouts that may happen in the future. Okay, so what is future? Isn't that just a prediction we are trying to make based on memory of what we consider to be the past? Many of us seem to be so caught up in this future because that's how our minds have been conditioned throughout most of our life. To move towards some point of safety and happiness, which simply isn't now. For example, you start out in primary school being told you need to move towards secondary school. When you're in secondary school, you're told to move towards college and then university. When you're at university, you're told to move towards a career where the whole race starts at the bottom again, towards some future at the top when you'll be rich and safe and happy. Until finally you get so tired that you're just looking out for retirement. After some more decades, if you're lucky, you die and your kids can do the whole race again. A race you may have even taught them. But it's true, isn't it? We always feel like we're moving towards something, like we're following some plan that needs to be finished. We have goals we need to achieve, things to do, stuff to buy, people to meet. We're always looking towards some future happiness. In reality, that feeling of looking ahead is our mind's continued search for safety that stems from a current feeling of anxiety, a feeling that this now isn't quite it. It's an anxiety that drives us to always move forward, to control, to procreate, to survive. Happiness and the feeling that we will be safe one day, someday, is always around the corner, and so our minds tend to live in the future. So, to better understand time, maybe you just need to ask yourself a different question. What are you doing right now at this very moment? If you answer, listening to you, that is not entirely true. Listening is an activity that we define as having some kind of beginning and some kind of end. At any single moment in time, absolutely nothing is happening. Now is like a photographic image, a lattice of like little tiny pixels that together form a data set. What about the next now? Well, that again is an image. Our mind joins those unrelated images together to form a pattern, and we call that pattern a flow of time. It has a past of images which give it meaning, yet that past only exists in our mind as data, as memory, so that we may predict the future. It's like our mind is forever looking back at each data set to form patterns that it could just use to make predictions about the future, just so we can survive. So, we never really live in the now, do we? But the reality is, now is all we have. The past doesn't exist except in some stored memory, and tomorrow never really comes. So, folks, time doesn't actually exist. It's just our mind making meaning of stored data it comes to consider as past whilst making predictions of the future. But now is actually all we have. Just now. One eternal now. Now. Now.